Welcome to CDL School Training. I'm going to show you guys how to do a pre-trip on a tractor trailer for your Class A. First, we're going to start with the keys in opposite section. We tell the examiner that we have the keys in opposite section, put them away. Then we're going to tell him that our wheels are chucked, so our foot won't move without any authorization. Then we're going to start on the top of the trailer, check for any obstructions, tree branches, cables on our passenger side. Same thing with our side, on the trailer on the top, no obstructions, no tree branches, no cable. We're going to check under our tractor to check for any engine oil, transmission oil, fluid, coolant, power steering. It's good to know all 5, but at the NVA, all you have to tell your inspector is just name 3 of them. Talk about the 2 reflector lights on the top of our trailer. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted, proper color. Proper color should be amber, not cracked or broken. Then we talk about our 5 clearance light on the top of our tractor. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted, proper color. Proper color should be amber, not cracked or broken. Then we check our mirrors. Make sure our mirrors are properly mounted, properly bolted. Our mirrors are not cracked or broken. We're going to check the metal. Make sure the metal is not bent or broken. Same with this side. Talk about our mirrors. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted. Our mirrors are not cracked or broken. And our bar is not cracked or broken. Then we're going to talk about our spot mirrors. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. Our mirrors are not cracked or broken. And our metal is not bent, cracked or broken. Come over to this side. Spot mirrors, make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. Mirrors are not cracked or broken. Our metal is not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we talk about our windshield. Make sure our windshield is properly mounted. It's not cracked or broken. Make sure there's no illegal stickers. Then we talk about our windshield seal. This black piece all around our windshield. Properly mounted. It's not ripped or open. That water could go inside the cap. Then we talk about our windshield wipers, both our wipers that are right there. Make sure they're properly mounted. Make sure the blade is not excessively worn. Next we talk about our headlights. Make sure that they're properly mounted, properly bolted. Proper color should be clear, no condensation. Same thing with this side. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked, bent, or broken. Proper color should be clear, no condensation. Our turn signals, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked or broken. Proper color should be amber. Same with over here. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked or broken. No condensation. Proper color should be amber. Then we're going to move over here to our license plates. Make sure that our license plate is properly mounted, properly bolted. Now we're going to open our engine compartment. Unlock this latch right here. Walk to this side, same thing. Unlock the latch over here. Next we're gonna come over here, grab it from right here. Hold it down slowly. After we open our compartment, we'll talk about our engine oil dipstick. You take it out, wipe it clean. Put it back in, take it out again, check for proper level. You don't have to do that in the NVA, but it's good to tell your examiner. Then we move to a radiator, which is right here. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked or broken, no illegal weldings. Radiator main hose, right here. Properly mounted, no missing clamps. Radiator blade, which is right here. Make sure they're not cracked nor broken. Radiator reservoir, which is right here. Make sure it's properly mounted, not cracked nor broken, and it's not leaking. Our gasket inside, make sure it's not excessively damaged. Our cap, make sure it's secure, no leaks around it. Our reservoir hose, properly mounted, not cut nor broken, no missing clamps, properly mounted. After our alternator, we move to our alternator wires that are right here. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted. They're not cut, fried, or burnt. Then we talk about our power steering pump that's inside. We can't see it nor touch it, but we're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, and make sure there's no leaks. Then we move to the other side, talk about our air compressor, properly mounted, properly bolted. Then we talk about our air compressor hose, which is connected to it, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. We're gonna check for any leaks because it is gear driven. We talk about our water pump, which is in there, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Check for any leaks. Then we talk about our belt. Make sure there's no more than 3/4 inches of a slack because it is belt driven. I'm gonna talk about our alternator again, which is this piece right here. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Then our belts. Make sure there's no more than 3/4 inches of a slack because it is belt driven. Power steering pump reservoir, which is this right here, properly mounted, not cracked nor broken. Check for any leaks. Our gasket inside. Make sure it's not excessively damaged nor worn. Our cap. Make sure it's secure, no leaks around it. Then we're going to talk about our air filter. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Our cover is properly secure. Then we talk about our truck frame. Make sure that it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Then we talk about a steering system, which contains 3 parts. Over here, this blue piece is our power shaft. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Steering gearbox, which is this black piece right here. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Steering gearbox hose, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no leaks. Next we're going to talk about a steering linkage, which contains 5 parts. Pivot arm, which is this piece right here, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Our drag link, which is this bar right here, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Our bolt joints, which is right here, so it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Make sure the cutter keys are in place. Steering arm, which is right here, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Our tie rod, which is right here, this bar going left to right, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Now we're going to talk about our suspension system, which contains 4 parts. I'm going to start with our front and rear spring hanger, which is over there. You can't see it, but we're going to make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Then we're going to move to our leaf springs, which is right here. We're going to make sure they're none shifted, none cracked, none broken. Our U-bolts, which is these 2 right here, look like hooks. Make sure they're properly mounted, not cracked or broken, and the nuts on the bottom are not loose. Our shock absorber, this piece right here, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, not leaking grease. Air brake system contains 5 parts. We're going to start with our air brake hose, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Check for any leaks. Air brake chamber, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Our slack adjuster, which is right here. We're going to make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Make sure it's no more than 1 inch of a slack. We're going to check by pushing on the push rod and make sure the cutter key and the cutter pins are in place. Cutter key and cutter pin. Brake drum, which is right here. You're going to make sure that there's no grease nor no oil inside. Brake lining, which is in here. We're going to check for proper thickness. Make sure our tires have no more than 4 32 inch of the thread on the main groove. These tires can't be recapped nor re-grooved. Side of our tire, make sure they're not cut, no boldage around the whole tire. Our air bulb, Make sure there's proper air. It's the right air. And make sure our air bulb is secure. Our rim. Make sure it's properly mounted. Not bent nor broken. No illegal weldings. Lug nuts. Touch every single one of them to make sure they're not loose. You're gonna look for shiny rust or metal that will indicate that it's loose, which they're not. Inner and outer oil seal. Inner seal, you can't see, but this is the outer seal. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Our hub oil, properly mounted. Over here, talk about our steps. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. No sets of damage. Battery compartment right here, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, properly secure. You don't have to open it in the NVA, but you have to explain to him every part. The battery inside, properly mounted, properly bolted. Our cables, they're not fried, no burnt. And our terminals, make sure there's no corruption. Catwalk, make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. No sets of damage. Our drive shaft, which is right underneath. This piece right here. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Check for any debris. Debris is caused when it's cracked or when it's broken. Then we talk about our airlines. Blue line, service. Red, emergency. Green, electric. Make sure it's properly mounted, not cracked, no broken, no leaks. Same thing with our electric line, not fried, no burnt. When we talk about the glad hands, right here, from the trailer side, so they're properly connected, they're not leaking. Same with our electric line, properly connected, not fried, no burnt. Talk about the gaskets, make sure they're not excessively worn, not damaged, no leaks. Our trailer, not excessively damaged. We're gonna go under here now. Talk about our fifth wheel. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted to the trailer platform. Make sure it's properly greased. Our locking pin, which is right there in the middle. We're gonna make sure properly secure to the fifth wheel. Our release arm and safety arm, which is inside. Can't see it, but we're gonna make sure it's properly secure. Our trailer apron, we're gonna make sure it's properly mounted. No illegal weldings, because they could damage the fifth wheel. We're gonna go under here. Talk about our kingpin. Make sure that the kingpin is secure to the trailer apron, and that the locking pin is secure to the fifth wheel. Then we're going to talk about our lights. We're going to talk about our brake lights. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Proper color should be red. Same with this side. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Proper color should be red. Our reverse lights, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Proper color should be clear. Then we're going to come out here. Talk about our second axle tires. Make sure the tires have at least 2/32 inch of the thread. These tires could be recapped and re-grooved. Talk about the side of our tires. Make sure there's no cuts, no bulges around the tire. Make sure the inside of the tires, there's nothing in between the inside. Talk about the rim. Make sure it's properly mounted. No illegal weldings, lug nuts. Touch every single one of them. Make sure they're not loose. Check for shiny rust or shiny metal. That will indicate that they're loose, which they're not. Our inner and outer oil seal. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted. Can't see the inner seal. We're gonna make sure there's no leaks around it. Our axle seal. Make sure it's properly mounted and bolted. Make sure there's no leaks around it either. And we're gonna talk about our suspension system and our brake system. We're gonna start with our suspension system first. We're gonna talk about our front and rear spring hanger, which is in the back. Can't see it, but we're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked or broken. No illegal weldings. Our leaf springs, which is in there, can't see it neither. We're gonna make sure there's none cracked, none shift, and none missing. Our U-bolts, we're gonna make sure is in there too. We're gonna make sure that it's properly bolted. The bolts on the bottom are not missing, not cracked nor broken. Talk about our shock absorber, which are in there too, behind the tire. Can't see it, but you have to mention everything I'm saying. So it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not a crack nor broken, no leaks around it. And we're gonna talk about our air bellow, which is this piece right here. We're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no leaks around. Now we're gonna talk about our air brake system. We can't see it, nor touch them, but it's back there, and we have to explain and say every single one of them. We're gonna start with our air brake hose. We're gonna make sure it's properly mounted. We're gonna make sure there's no leaks. Our air brake chamber, properly mounted, not cracked nor broken, no leaks. Our slack adjuster, we're gonna make sure that there's no more than 1 inch of a slack. We do that by pushing in on the push rod. Make sure that the cutter keys and cutter pins are in place, and we have to make sure that the brakes are released for the slack adjusters. Our brake drums, no grease, no oils. Brake lining, we're gonna check for proper thickness. We're gonna move over to the mud flap. We're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not excessively damaged nor worn. Move here to our landing gear. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken, no illegal weldings. Landing gear handle, make sure it's properly mounted and bolted. Make sure it goes up and down properly. And we're gonna talk about the side of the trailer. Make sure that at least half of the trailer has DOT reflector stickers on it. Then we're gonna talk about our cross members right here. We're gonna make sure they're properly mounted and bolted. They're not cracked nor broken, no illegal welding. I'm gonna move over here, the torsion bar, so this bar right here. We're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Talk about our third axle tire. It's the same tire as the second axle tire. Just tell them that. We're gonna talk about the suspension system and air brake system. Suspension system, front and rear. Spring hanger, which is in the back, can't see it, but we're gonna make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. No illegal weldings, leaf springs. Make sure there's none shifted, none missing, none cracked. Our U-bolts, properly mounted. Our nuts in the bottom are not missing. Make sure they're screwed properly. And our chockers over, make sure it's properly mounted, not cracked nor broken, so there's no leaks around it. Our brake system, which is in there, same thing as our second axle. Air brake hose, air brake chamber, slack adjuster, brake drums, brake lining. Only thing is you have to make sure that for the slack adjuster, the brakes are released. We talk about the mud flap again. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Make sure the mud flap is not excessively damaged nor worn. Now we're gonna move to the back of our trailer. We're gonna start with our fly reflector lights on the top. Make sure they're properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Proper color should be red. Talk about our door. Make sure our door is not excessively damaged. Talking about our lights. All our lights in the back should be red. Brake light, reverse light, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Same on this side. Properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. Our door, make sure it opens. Closes properly. Move over here to our license plate. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. Make sure they're the same license plates as the front. Make sure your month and year is not expired. Walk to this side. It's our examiner. Same thing we did on the other side. We check on this side. Don't have to check, just say that. Same thing we did on the other side, we do on this side. Talk about our exhaust system. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted. No missing clamps. Make sure it's not cracked nor broken. We're gonna check for any signs of suits. Suits is caused when it's broken and when it's cracked. Our fuel compartment. Make sure it's properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked nor broken. So there's no leaks around it. Our fuel cap, properly secure, no leaks around that. Our gasket inside, make sure it's not excessively worn. Our fuel line, which is right here, no cuts, no leaks. At this point, we're gonna close our engine compartment. Walk over to this side. Our latch, properly secure. Latch, properly secure. Make sure our door opens, closes properly. steps, properly mounted. No such a damage. Handlebars, properly mounted, properly bolted, not cracked, no broken. Check our windows. Should it go up and down properly? At this point, we're gonna tell our examiner to check our lights for us. He's gonna go in the back. You're gonna turn your truck on, and you're gonna tell him to check your reverse lights for you. Working properly. As soon as he tell you that, turn the truck off. On position. Pump your brakes 3 times. He'll tell you brake lights are working properly. Right turn signal, tell you it's working properly. You tell him left turn signal, he'll tell you it's working properly. You turn on your 4-way flashers, he'll be in the back and he'll tell you it's working properly. Then you ask him to come in the front, do the same thing. Left, he'll tell you it's working properly. Right, tell you it's working properly. 4-way flashers, tell you it's working properly. Low beams working properly. High beams working properly. At this point, you'll tell your examiner to come inside your truck so you can do an in-cap check. You'll tell him you're turning on your truck to regain air for your air brake test. While we're regaining air for our air brake test, we'll talk about our seat. Make sure it's adjusted for you. Our seat belt clicks and unclick properly. Our mirrors adjusted for the driver. Our steering wheel, make sure there's no more than 2 inch on a 20-inch display. Our city horn is working properly. Hornet horn is working properly. Our heater, defroster, is working properly. Our washer, wiper fluids are working properly. Our gear selectors, reverse, neutral, drive, put it back on neutral, working properly. Our panels, make sure the panel is clear, not a crack nor broken. We're gonna start the water temperature. Make sure it reaches 180. If it reaches over 220, that means the truck is overheating. Our oil, which is right here, make sure it's between 30 to 60 psi. Our bolt, make sure it's between 12 to 14. This is our primary and secondary air gauge. We're gonna wait until we reach 120 psi. We have reached 220 psi. Now we would tell them we're ready for our air brake test. Don't forget to mention your 3 emergency equipment, your reflective triangles, our fire extinguisher, which is on my side, make sure it's properly charged. Our spare fuses, which is on my door. We have reached 120 psi. We're gonna tell them we're ready for our air brake test. Make sure the truck is on neutral. We're gonna turn our truck off. On position. We're gonna release our parking brake and our trailer brakes. Parking brake, trailer brakes. At this point, you're gonna do a minute for your air brake test. Make sure that you do not pass over a minute, because if you do, you automatically fail. Tell them when you're ready, press start, hold on the brakes. We're gonna make sure that we don't lose no more than 4 psi on our primary and secondary gauges. You will know when you miss when you go over 4 psi, because it'll go all the way down. It's not moving. Do not go over 1 minute because you automatically fail. Make sure you bring a stopwatch or a watch to do this. Now we tell them that we did not lose no more than 4 psi. Our air gauges are working properly. Now we're going to pump our brakes until we reach close to 60 psi. Our air buzzer and warning light will come on. Pump our brakes. Our air brake and air lights are working properly. We're close to 40 psi. Our parking brake and trailer air brake will come on. Parking brake and trailer air brake came on. We tell them they're working properly. At this point, we will start our truck on to regain air. Step on the gas to regain some air.